Well, yesterday, here I am watching Shonda Black, and all of a sudden, midstream, it breaks that news is about to drop about Graham Platner. And people start, guessing what it is and what is it going to be. Well, a woman came forward and with credible evidence, with a paper trail, with everything, says she was raped by Graham Platner. I believed every woman prior to this who also came out with stories, because remember, this man had a record on his own that should have been enough. And I know from day one, I've been so anti-Graham Platner, and people were in my chat berating me, saying I was destroying the left, I was tearing us apart, saying, oh, I can't believe you want Susan Collins to win, all this stuff. This is exactly the point I'm trying to make for femmes and women in this space. We are screaming on the top of our lungs, stop trusting these men who have records, and you keep telling us to shh, he's our best chance. Here's an interview with her. Okay, this is the 10-minute interview. I know there's a longer one, but this is the one I found with the best audio. Let's hear from her.
Relationship with Graham Platner as a very good example of what modern dating is like.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that, I think there's a lot of situationships. I think people are dating multiple people at the same time, whether that's known or not known by the people involved.
Mind you that Graham Platner cheated on his wife on the most notorious app Kik, which is like the most notorious space for the worst people in the world. And maybe some category of person is good that exists there, but everybody knows you shouldn't use that app. That's a very sus app, okay? So I hate the way they're even talking to this woman and like kind of like, I don't know. I didn't love the way that the interviews with her were conducted, but I'll let you see for yourself.
So it was just a very common practice is what I viewed it as.
And kind of casual?
Yeah, very casual.
And when did you meet him and how did you meet him?
I met him on Bumble, actually, in 2019.
This is Jenny. Her name is Jenny.
And I had known who he was. He grew up in the next town over. We had like a mutual family friend, so I always knew of his existence, but that was when we actually met.
And what did you think of him?
At first, I thought he was great. He's very well spoken. He's intelligent. He's charming. I thought a lot of good things. We had a great first date. It went and flowed really well.
He has described himself as self-medicating with alcohol.
Yeah.
He has described himself that way.
Yeah.
So I would think maybe that would have reared its head.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's something that I think a lot of people are desensitized to. In general, heavy drinking, and especially out of the relationship that I had just come out of. So it wasn't anything abnormal to me. I remember we were out one night and he was drinking, and that's when he told me that he has PTSD.
When the New York Times story came out, you were in it, but you didn't go as far in that story as you are today.
Yeah.
Why not?
I didn't want to. I didn't want to have to violate this huge level of privacy to my own life to be able to infer that this person is not honest and trustworthy. I felt really protective of my own privacy throughout this whole process. And
because she will be attacked, because she will be bombarded, because victim after victim after victim comes out, and we are literally always thrown under the bus, which is why even initially when the stories came out and all the men were dismissing them, I know a lot of the men have turned around and now they're saying she's credible, but I'm saying all of them were credible because all of them had receipts, all of them had talked to therapists, and all of them had admittedly dated him, and he had admitted with his own mouth that he had cheated on his wife. You know what I'm saying? So to me, all the women were credible, whether you liked it or not. There was no reason to doubt them, even if they were Republicans, because wasn't he still associating with them? Isn't he the guy who's reformed? You act like he himself wasn't conservative, engaging in conservative activity, right? Not to mention, by the way, because I live in Croatia, and he got his tattoo, his Nazi tattoo in Croatia. I asked my partner, I was like, can you tell me, like, do you guys get Nazi tattoos here? Is that possible? He said, well, even though it's like, it's not like common, there's gonna be someone who's willing to do it. And then I showed him the tattoo of Graham Platner, and he's like, oh yeah, that's like a really famous Nazi tattoo. And I was like, how did Graham Platner say he went all these years without knowing it was a Nazi tattoo? His friends and family, the military, everyone said they didn't know, but it's like a very obvious tattoo. And so I'm sitting here like, what are we talking about? Why did we even trust this man from the beginning? And this is going to be the problem with the quote Democrats, and this is going to be the problem with even leftists. And yes, all the leftist streamers are, I think, they played a part in this. They just didn't, as a unit, pull us all together against Grant Platner. People attacked FD Signifier for even having a negative opinion of Grant Platner. They attacked me for having a negative opinion of Grant Platner. And that's what I'm saying. Like, why are you going after leftists who have an issue with this man when he obviously isn't a good person? And then now all of a sudden they're like, oh, maybe he's not a good person.
It got to a point where my privacy was no longer going to happen. And that was when I kind of just made the decision that, like, I'm going to say my piece and get it out there. I had tried to give the impression that something, worse happened. And that's when it was like, I refused to comment further.
You definitely alluded to a bad night.
Yeah.
So bad that...
And that's a great point from chat that said in Europe, if Nazi symbols are illegal in many parts of Europe, which they are, so the tattoo artist knew what was going on. Exactly. The tattoo artist is just as responsible for doing the research about what they tattoo.
You never saw him again afterwards.
Yeah.
But just to underline the point, you're not coming forward because you have any political motivation.
No, not at all. That was actually one of the huge reasons that I didn't come forward and still struggled. Like, that was a huge moral conflict to feel like...
Because you'd like a Democrat.
Oh, Chad says specifically it was the harassment that Sean got because of his position on Platner that made him decide to go back to school and realize he didn't want to be part of the space anymore. Noted. Exactly. Noted. Now listen to what he's saying, because this is important. She's saying, I am a Democrat. I do agree with Platner. I didn't want to come forward and ruin the shot of somebody replacing Susan Collins. And also, you know what I'm saying? This is why I'm saying it can't be about party lines when it comes to rape and assault. But even more than that, we have to be so careful about the excuses we make for changed people, because that's the narrative around Grant Platner. He's an amazing man who's done great change. He just cheated on his wife a couple years ago. He was cheating on his wife a couple years ago. That's recent history for a man running, asking you for power. Hello?
Democrat to be in the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the things that he speaks about. They're important. They're important to people. I'm one of those people.
But at the end of the day, you feel he's not being honest.
He's not being honest, no.
And we should note, this is 2021 we're talking about. It's only 5 years ago. Tell me about that. When was it?
It was at the end of 2021. I remember it being shortly after I moved back into my winter home, because that is where it happened. And it was a night where him and I were texting back and forth, and he had taken something that I said as an invitation, and that's not how I meant it, and I quickly clarified, and he sent a message back indicating that he would come over, and I said, no, don't come over. Like, I'm not in the mood, don't come over. And I was more stern with that message. And then I didn't hear back from him, so I thought that meant he got the message or gave up on it or whatnot. And so like half an hour later, I heard a noise outside my door, and then he came in. He just came into my house. It was unlocked. I live in an area where you don't usually have to lock your doors. I do now. So he came in, and I realized, okay, he didn't listen. He's in my home. And I was laying on the couch. It was probably pretty late at night. And
we are not going to shame her for not locking her doors. I also didn't lock my doors for most of my life. Okay? I don't want to hear anybody shame her for not locking her door. I also grew up in a very safe neighborhood and did not have to lock my doors for a majority of my life. I can't tell you how many times I would go to sleep without ever thinking about locking my door because I didn't have to. Okay? That's a very common thing and a lot of bubbles. And it sucks when you can no longer do that, because it's really meaningful to grow up in an environment that is so safe you don't have to lock your doors. Okay? But he came into her house. Okay? He came into her house. And that's what I'm saying. That's what makes you lock your door. What makes you lock your door is you hear stories or it happens in your neighborhood. But when it's never happened to you, and you've never had anything bad happen to you, you just revel in the safety of how that feels. Okay? So I'm not going to blame her for this. I also did not lock my doors for most of my life.
And I was already ready for bed. I just wasn't in bed. And so he had kind of like jumped on top of me and indicated that he had intentions that were sexual in nature. And I remember just at first being like, hey, I'm not into this. Like, I'm not in the mood. Like, don't, whatever. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I feel like I've said this enough times. Like, he's not listening to me or he's not hearing me. And
just for the record, when you guys say that, like, oh, even in the suburbs, we lock our doors. Do you remember that story about that black man who was at home eating ice cream and the white cop walked into his house because he left his door unlocked? It's not his fault that happened to him. It is not her fault this happened to her. No one should be walking to your fucking house. That is the fault of the person who came into your fucking house. Do not victim blame these people. These people had every right to sit in their house with the door unlocked, and you should not be coming into that house. So just remember that every time you even voice it, you are saying that they are the reason they are dead, that they are the reason they were raped. You are blaming them. And I'm saying don't do that. They had every right to, what if they just forgot to lock their door? What if they just missed it? So please just be very careful about this. Oh, I lock my door. I'm really safe. I'm always safe. Well, good for you that you're always safe. That doesn't change the fact that people get raped and they get killed while sitting in their own fucking house. And it's bullshit. So be very careful. I'm very passionate today, girls. I'm very frustrated with this story. And I want everybody to hear themselves when they fucking open their mouth and play into victim blaming. Please be very careful about this entitlement or about this ego boosting activity of, well, I remember, I know to lock my, that's exactly what conservatives say. Oh, well, did you lock your car? What were you wearing? Well, did you do everything you needed to do? So please just take a deep breath before we post.
I looked at him and I remember this very specific look in his eyes, and I could smell alcohol, and I was like, this is different. He is heavily intoxicated.
How terrifying to notice the distinct look in his eyes, the smell of alcohol, the entitlement from a man, a person bigger than her, stronger than her, entering her house against her consent, and she had to sit there and make a decision. How fucking terrifying. And what's worse is they know each other. So there's a level of, no, he wouldn't hurt me, right? Think.
And that blank stare was kind of like a photographic memory that I still have of that night. And that was me recognizing what the situation was. And this wasn't just like, oh, hey, somebody showed up and I'm going to tell him to go home. He was heavily intoxicated, had intentions with me, and wasn't listening when I said no. And
you were saying, no, don't, over and over.
I remember, obviously I've had to recall a lot of this. This is something that I tried for many years to forget. And so small details, might get past me. But yes, I remember very specifically.
Very common, very typical, very relatable. Their audio is really bad for this interview, and I cannot figure out why. So just, guys, if you hear any problems, I don't know why their audio, every video I found, the audio is really bad. It has echoes, it has stops, it lulls. I don't know why. It's not me. It is the video. I don't get it. But just this is so common. This is typical. This is why we go to therapy. It's why we try to remember the details or memory. It's not that, we don't, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist, but there is a realness to this. Is very relatable.
Saying, I'm not into this. In my message previously, I had told him I had an old back injury, and I remember saying, I'm not into this.
Yeah, and I don't like that Tapper was like, oh, you said no, right? As if to clarify, as if to give her, you know what I'm saying? It just, it's oh, you're getting robbed. But did you tell the robber not to rob you? Did you specifically verbalize that you did not want to be robbed? Because if you didn't say that to him, then how did he know? Wouldn't he just assume you want to be robbed? That's what that sounds like.
Had a long day. My back hurts. Like I was in that kind of mood, the leave me alone mood. And there was a little bit of scuffle, altercation. The house that I live in has this antique sewing kit that I kept beside the couch, and that got knocked over. He backed into it, or
there's something so powerful here. Chatters, I'm not trying to dismiss you, but this narrative has gotten Black people killed, right? You said, I get it, but there's a certain level of insane privilege of feeling safe enough to not lock your doors. Growing up poor and Black wasn't an option for me. There's a level of safety that's foreign for some of us. Not blaming her, just feel like that's what some of the comments are saying. Yes, but that was also the argument that was used against that Black gentleman who that white police officer walked into his house, people said it was his fucking fault for not locking the door. It's not going to save you to say you were diligent about locking your doors. It's not going to save you when you get killed by a police officer. It's not going to save you to push that narrative out into the world that if you just lock your doors, maybe they will use any reason to come at you. Do you know what I'm saying? Any reason to discredit you as a victim, any reason. And I'm saying, yes, that's your personal experience, but that's not going to change when the police officer gets to use it as an excuse of, well, I walked right into the apartment. The door was unlocked. I thought it was my home. And here's this gentleman in his boxers, in his PJs, eating ice cream, probably relaxing after work. And I'm saying they are going to use it against you. So yes, have the realization, but understand that they will take this and go, yeah, their doors were unlocked. I'm a safe, like any reason you claim to say like, oh, well, I was smart enough to lock my doors is exactly the reasoning they'll use to discount anyone who gets hurt. That's all I'm saying, right?
Something was maybe pushed into it by me, or something happened in that moment, and that thing got spilled. And
Do you remember pushing him away?
I remember potentially pushing away with my
Okay, I hate that question.
legs, and then as he backed into it, it spilt, and all of the sewing needles and tape and yarn and everything went everywhere. Everything had fallen onto the floor, and in that moment, I evaluated my safety. Like a drunk person who's blackout drunk is in my home, has these intentions with me, has already caused this amount of destruction and not listening to me. And so I basically felt safe as just complying.
You normally
Very typical, very expected.
use protection.
Yeah.
And
Okay, Chatter, I don't know if you're a part of this community or not. You said, girl, I'm black, I fucking know. Well, I assumed you were black, I know. I'm not trying to speak for black people. I'm trying to say whether or not you understand it, they are going to weaponize it against you, right? So I'm just expanding on what you expanded on. You said, Jesus, I wasn't saying any of that. I was just saying that some people aren't blaming her, but expressing a disbelief. But by expressing the disbelief, you are victim blaming. You know what I'm saying? By expressing the disbelief, you're adding to the conversation that victim blames her. I'm telling you, they are going to weaponize it against you. I'm just letting you know. I'm letting my audience know because multiple people said it. Some of whom I assume weren't black. Okay, so I hear you. I get it. I'm just letting you know that even just sharing the thought is enough to make people go, yeah, why didn't she lock her door? Did she really not want it? She knew he was heading over probably. He already knew he wanted it. So she probably left the door unlocked because she knew he was coming over. It's all of these narratives. This black woman who just got her dog killed, people were saying, why didn't she put the dog away? She wanted her dog. She was causing trouble. This dog got shot because she didn't put her dog properly away. This woman just innocently opened the door, innocently thought she put her dog away, could never have fathomed the police were going to shoot her dog. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying just adding to the conversation. I'm just saying, even just sharing a thought. And that's the danger of verbalizing everything, myself included. It's like when your parents share a thought about like, oh, so-and-so's gained so much weight. That's going to get internalized. That's fat phobia, right? You're just saying, oh, but they did gain some weight. It's just a fact. I hear you. But depending on how it's said and heard, people will go the extra mile with it. That's why we learn about the things we say. So I hear you. Okay, your perspective is valid. And because this is a philosophy channel where we try to introspect and extrospect, and we try to deconstruct and learn, this is a part of that learning, Rise again with the super chat says, we need better to expect and demand better candidates. What good is getting a progressive? Though through if he's also not a Nazi tattoo essay committer. Exactly. 100%. Yeah, totally. Okay, let's go back to the victim.
It's just complying.
You normally use protection.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a gross question. You normally use protection? Oof. That's a gross question.
And this time he didn't.
No.
And you didn't want that.
No.
Ooh.
And he didn't care.
No, I don't think my words were falling on deaf ears or drunk ears.
And you were still saying, don't do this, or I'm not into this?
I remember specifically him grabbing at my chest, and I hit his hand, and I said, "Don't touch me." And I remember that during the altercation
And
specifically.
then he kept going.
Yeah, and it was this weird mix of like
Oof.
coming in and out of, I don't think consciousness is the word, but like coming to and kind of falling back into that drunken, I don't know what I'm doing state. And yeah, and he would apologize in those moments and then go back to doing what he was doing.
So he was aware that he was doing something wrong
Yeah.
and saying sorry.
I feel like he was in moments.
Is there any way that he thought this was consensual or no? Just because...
Oh, these questions are so frustrating. Fire Jake Tapper. Fire him. This is an insane question. Is there any way he thought it was? Are you out of your fucking mind asking this question? Oh my God.
I don't believe that you can think that that scenario was consensual.
Jesus Christ.
You have to understand that that wasn't when somebody is repeatedly, when somebody in the middle of it says, "Don't touch me," like, that's obviously not consensual.
Especially if he's apologizing on occasion.
Yeah. And that next morning, so after everything ended, I ran to the bathroom, which is just beside my bedroom, and I was in there for a while and just trying to like comprehend things. Like,
Were you crying? Were you...
I honestly I don't think I was crying. I was like more in shock. And yeah, just trying to understand like what had just happened, especially like this is a person I have known and have trusted and have had very consensual.
It really is somebody you know, somebody that's met you, somebody in your circle, someone connected to somebody. It is usually somebody you know or somebody you know through somebody else. Like, I think we take for granted how many people know us, but we don't know them because we're in large circles of like social groups. You go to the same club or the same dungeon, or you just know people. You go to the same canvassing event, and you might not know you know them, but they know you. You know what I'm saying? It's really,
relationships with, like, all along until it wasn't. And so that was a really hard thing to understand, that this was a person I trusted. And so I spent a little bit of time in the bathroom, and when I came back out, he was asleep in my bed. And at that point, I didn't know what my options were. Like, obviously, I don't want this person in my house. And when I, earlier had realized how drunk he was, I knew that he had driven over that way. Like, I'm surprised he made it to my house. And if I woke him up and sent him home, like, I am now making the decision to put somebody that drunk on the road. And I didn't want to.
This is very common where you will have, well, maybe common in my circles, but you will have a really traumatic experience, something like this. And even in those moments, you will almost like shut down, and you'll even think about others, especially if you're programmed or raised as a girl. You will like have the programming of saying like, I don't want to inconvenience somebody. I can't tell you how many people I know who were assaulted didn't want to inconvenience people because we are victim blamed. Because again, unlike being in a fight where people buy you a beer, nobody buys you a beer when you're raped. Nobody buys you a beer if you survive a rape, but everybody buys you a beer if you survive a fight. So there's nothing to brag about, nothing to get social credit for, nothing to reinforce or tell people about. There's only the, how do I make this as least inconvenient to me and other people? And also, how do I just get home safely? Or in this case, get him out of her house safely. How scary is that? Right? She can't even go home she can't go home. She is home, With
the fact that, like, if he got into an accident or hurt somebody else. And I remember thinking that I could tell him to leave, and I could call the police immediately, and I could at least get him caught for drunk driving. So I was like, I'm going to let him sleep, and the second he wakes up, I'm going to tell him to leave. And so he slept. I lay there in like a state of panic all night, and I remember turning on, I have like one of those noise machines that you sleep with, and I turn it on ocean waves, and I'm like, I'll just try to meditate. It didn't work. So in the morning, he woke up, and he went to go put his arm around me.
Ugh.
And I was like, whoa. And realizing this person doesn't know that what happened wasn't.
This is very common as well. They expect it. I know of stories of people who put things in people's drinks and just say like, oh, that's just the culture. Yeah, I thought everybody does that. Yeah, of course I spiked your drink. Like I thought we were having a fun night. And then people around them will be like, yeah, isn't that what everyone does? No, you cannot go around spiking people's drinks. Okay. And these are like college educated, often in college situations because of the frat culture. And that's why I say like I can't tell you how many stories I know of people, how many people have gone to the police and the police are like, well, did you take the drink? Did you consent to taking the drink? It's like, yeah, but the drink was laced. And it's like, well, what if do you guys do drugs? Do you do recreational drugs? It's like, that's the other layer of this. Like if you enjoy drugs, if you have weed, if you're a coke, whatever you like, if you are that person, that's an added layer of like, well, you do tend to like, drugs. So are you sure you didn't want to take it? There's all of these layers, which is why I say to you, like, if you have the skills, if you want to get the skills, you can negotiate. You can negotiate, you can get informed consent. This is why I want informed consent, because in someone's world, what he did to her is considered consensual. And I'm saying, I don't want to live in that world. And we have to be so serious about that. We have to be so serious about not wanting to live in that world. But it has been normalized by media, romanticized in TV shows. It has just been so a part of the narrative. And that's the problem. Chat says, I forgot Bill Cosby got away with it for decades. And what did people say after Bill Cosby came out? They said, well, of course he gave her drugs. That was just like the scene back then. That's just what everybody was doing back then. Yeah, everybody was raping. This is what I'm saying. We have to be so aware of how we need to change culture, and we really need to pay attention to who is victim blaming, and we really got to be diligent not to add to that conversation, even when we're just sharing.
Okay. And so I remember taking his arm and throwing it back at him, and I said, are you fucking serious, Graham? And he's like, what? And I'm like, do you not remember what happened last night? He's like, no. And I'm like, okay, I need you to get dressed and leave and never talk to me again. Like nothing that happened was okay. And he did. He just got up and got dressed and left and didn't seem concerned.
Wow. Now that's the short interview. It's the one with the best audio that I could find. Now I went to also the article, and in the article, it says, early in the campaign, Platner admitted to getting a tattoo with Nazi symbolism while in the Marines, saying he was unaware at the time of its meaning and has since had it covered. Rikaka, I think that's how you say her name, she said, and she and Platner had a casual relationship between 2019 and mid-2021. CNN confirmed their connection by reviewing a picture she had taken of Platner at the time and an email she sent to her therapist describing the relationship in 2019. And her comment in an Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook page, November 2024. This is huge to me. This is huge. I don't know why I can't say this. Racist? Chat's trying to help me. Okay, in the Facebook comment, she wrote that we spent time together on and off, and last time being 2.5 years ago. I would definitely not recommend on any level. He can hold an intelligent conversation, has some humor, even a little charm, but not relationship material. She added that others could message her for more details. On the night in late 2021, she was staying at another home in a nearby village. I think this was she said her winter home, I think, and was texting Platner when he said he was coming over. CNN was unable to review these messages because she had since deleted messages and blocked Platner. I do wonder, because this is one of those things where, not that we need the evidence, like I fully believe her. It is one of those things where I don't know if you do this, but I definitely do this, where I just like want to erase my past sometimes. People I've dated, bad things that have happened to me. I just don't want to think about it. I mean, I can't tell you how many assault victims I know who, after they get assaulted, come home and take a shower, therefore washing away DNA evidence. And it's just awful because, you want this like perfect victim. You want these girls who go straight to the cops. You want these like perfect situations, but you have to imagine like it's happening to a real person. And of course, naturally, we're going to want to go home and take a shower. And like naturally, we're going to want to throw everything away. And naturally, we're going to want to get rid of every ounce of evidence, right? So then it's like, oh, well, why would you delete them? Or why would you do that? Hello? Because? Okay. Now, here is Graham Platner. Okay. Okay. Here is Graham Platner. at 1.25, putting out a public message as this was coming to light.
Address the troubling, serious, and I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false. Over the last 10 months, I've been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work, into your restaurants, into your houses of worship. You have shown that a different kind of politics, one that puts the interests of people over corporations, is not just possible, but is inevitable. This movement we have built, the largest volunteer base in the history of Maine politics, the hundreds of thousands of grassroots donors, and the supporters across the ideological spectrum, we were united in a love of Maine, a belief that our politics must change, and a focus on defeating Susan Collins. So, regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love, the people that I love, the movement I belong to, and the goal of defeating Susan Collins. Those were the goals when we launched this campaign, and they remain my goals today. On June 9th, 154,058 Mainers, the most in primary.
It's insane to me that a woman just accused you of rape. A woman that you know, a woman that you knew for a while, and you are focusing a 2-minute video on voting in elections rather than talking about this woman or her pain or what she went through, because you're just like, they're false. They never happened. He's disgusting. He was disgusting from day fucking one when everybody said he was.
History voted to reject a broken politics beholden to Washington and the donor class. They voted for hope, for change, to take back our economy, to take back our power, and to take back our Senate seat. Throughout it all, you never turned your back on me, and I will not turn my back on you now. Every one of you deserves to see that vision come to fruition and see Susan Collins defeated. And we will use every tool at our disposal to do so. As Maine goes, so goes the nation. As always, thank you.
This is what I'm saying. When everybody was critical of when the few of us were critical of Graham Platner, and I don't even run a politics show like that, and people were saying, Brittany, you're dividing the left, Like, what do you want, Susan Collins to win? Okay, but I don't want a Nazi to win. I mean, see how this wasn't enough? See how being a Nazi is never enough for you? For the world? Oh, so he's a racist? Okay, oh, he's an alcoholic who's abusive? Oh, there's women coming out? Oh, he was a mercenary? Oh, Blackwater? Oh, now this woman comes out. And by the way, like, I think what's so frustrating to me is the same streamer boys that tried to fucking make so many excuses for Graham Platner are now coming out saying it's credible. Why? What is so different from her and anybody else? They just didn't believe this other woman because she was a Republican. But why not? Because everything she said lines up with his character. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican woman or a Democrat woman. What matters is who the man is. Like, that's the thing. You are sitting here trying to tear this woman's testimony apart, this Republican woman, because she's part of the Heritage Foundation. You should be looking at him. What did he tell you he did with his own fucking mouth? He told you he cheated. He told you had an alcohol problem. He told you he had a dark past. He told you he was a mercenary. He told us he worked for Blackwater. Why did you even need to sit there and tear these women apart when you should have been tearing this man apart? Because we live under a white supremacist, patriarchal, capitalistic society, and they will always, for the benefit of a white man, throw everybody else under the bus. So Kyle Kalinske and Hassan Piker, who tried to run defense for Graham Platner, even though their fans are now denying it, we watched the videos on the stream, girls. Now they're like, oh, guys, I think this is like credible. I think this is like credible. And even their chat was like, no, this can't be credible. This is insane. Don't you think it's weird that she's, and they have to battle their own audiences now because they are now going to pretend like they didn't spend all that time on stream defending this man and playing defense for him. I'm glad they are now believing this woman. It would have been nice if they believed everything else before, including the words out of Graham Platner's fucking mouth. So again, I'm devastated for this woman, for any person who has gone through something like this. I'm devastated for all of the people Graham Platner has ever met and hurt, especially and including every single voter who knew better and did different. I need you guys to wake the fuck up, because every interview I saw, people saying, well, everybody has a past. Well, maybe he grew. Well, he's not perfect, but stop. The problem is us. The road to hell is paved in good intentions, and I think a lot of voters have good intentions about voting for bad candidates, and I think we've all drastically learned, okay? We've all drastically had to learn through all of this process who we're really going to stand behind. And so I can just hope that this is another wake-up call for us to get fucking serious, okay? Yeah, Chad says Hassan is literally tweeting claiming he'd ever endorse Platner. You know what he does? Hassan is such a Weasley little dude. He always says, I never endorse. But on Twitter, on Instagram, on his videos, he is always running defense. He said the same thing about the billionaire in California. Running defense, liking certain tweets that defend the guys. I'm saying you don't have to come out and say, I endorse to know who you're backing. Like, that's what I'm saying. Okay, Chad said, a Weasley little liar. Such a fucking Weasley little liar, dude. Listen to me. Birds of a feather flock together, and all these boys got rich. All the same lifted each other up, collabed each other into success, only to turn around and hurt everybody else. Ridiculous. Absolutely disgusting. Okay, and I'm sick of it.